Welcome along to 98 Not Out, the cricketing podcast. Remember, if you are new to this, where have you been? If you are regular, make sure you tell your friends, spread the word, get everyone to subscribe and follow. Today, I'm talking to a good old friend of mine. It's an absolute pleasure. Looking forward to this, Mr. Arfan Akram. Arfie,
hey,
how are you, mate?
I'm very, very well, mate. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. You have sharp. I think you're the man in cricket that has the sharpest haircuts. Always very, very barbershop fresh.
I wish, mate. They think I need a mullet cut, but anyway.
Leave that to Reece Topley and the boys. I think they're the ones that carry that off the best. So for those of you who don't know who Arfan is, well, he'll be particularly familiar to anyone in the Essex area that plays either club or county or follows the county cricket in this area. But eagle-eyed viewers will have spotted Arfan on the balcony, the Australian balcony at the recent Australian summer over here in England. So, yes, let's first of all, how did that come about? How did you end up gelling with the Australian team?
It's a sort of long story, but I'll keep it short. About 5 years ago, I applied, courtesy actually of Chris Silverwood, who was then the assistant coach of England and previous Essex head coach. He sort of emailed myself and my manager some roles for the ICC Cricket World Cup 2019. And he said, I think this is right up your street if of interest. I must confess, I applied with very little or low expectation. But one thing led to another. I was really, very fortunate, got through the interview stages and effectively was asked if I'd like to work with Pakistan during the 2019 World Cup as their team liaison officer. And then ECB, because Pakistan were playing 4 ODIs and a T20 and a bilaterals with England before the World Cup, the ECB touched base and said, do you fancy doing those as well? And Essex were very, very, very generous in allowing me to be sort of on a secondment period for around 3 months for that summer. And then ECB retained me very kindly for 2020, which ended up being behind closed doors COVID series with Pakistan, which was an interesting experience. And then in 21, I worked with both Pakistan and Sri Lanka for the bilateral white ball series when they were over in the UK, and last year worked with South Africa for their summer of all format cricket. And then very, very fortunate in November last year got the phone call from ECB saying, look, we've got Australia coming over for the Ashes and the World Test Championship. Do you fancy it? I think that's a very easy answer and an honest conversation again with Essex, who once again were very, very kind, generous in allowing me to go on a secondment. So that's the sort of shorter version of a very longer story.
It's fantastic. And congratulations. Just without going into any detail, what does the role involve from your part?
I think the easiest way to explain is there's an MOU where the two boards work with each other on in regards of the team experience when they're in the UK. So that's everything from accommodation, transport, logistics, training facilities, match day facilities, all of the dietary nutrition, and all of the extra stuff that the teams may request. And my job really is to make sure the whole tour runs behind the scenes as smooth as possible. And when there's any changes or recommendations that we look at them and try to implement as much as we can, including medical journeys, etc. So yeah, it's sort of very proudly say it's all behind the scenes, which I thoroughly enjoy. But it's intense. It's 24 hours. It's 7 days a week. But I wouldn't have any different.
Yeah, it's been quite a summer for the Australian team as well, hasn't it? With the World Test Championship final, which was I went to a couple of days of that at the Oval, and it was one of the most enjoyable cricket experiences I've ever had, just because of the occasion, the quality of play, and the weather was fantastic as well. And there were some great photos I saw on your social media of you with the boys afterwards, with the mace and big smiles on everyone's faces. And then, of course, that carried on into the Ashes. It seemed like you gelled with them really well. They look like a good bunch of guys.
Yeah, yeah. I'll start off by saying I'm officially now allowed, one of the very few people that is allowed to actually hold the mace as and the Ashes urn and the trophy, which is something I'll treasure forever. I'm not sure I'll ever get the chance to hold them again, but that's a good little thing to add on the old bio. Yeah, I'll start off. Honestly, I grew up like any fan of cricket in this country, following England in various successful and failure-based Ashes summers and winters. You know, I used to stay up late at night watching England play. So my unconscious bias, if you like, was very much finding it very difficult to see myself working and supporting, the Australians. But I'd say within 24 hours, I honestly, they blew me away in regards of their personalities, their humanity. They constantly check in on you. They made sure I felt I was part of the group from I say day one, from minute one, really, which surprised me, I must confess. And it became a very easy group to work with, if I'm being honest, throughout the whole summer, even when it got uneasy and pressure cooker was heating up. None of them really made you feel as if you're an outsider. They more or less actually embraced you even more to make sure the unit was tight and collective, and that was quite amazing to experience.
Yeah, and it's as you were saying, I mean, it goes back a few years. You've been on more balconies than King Charles, I think, from what I've seen on Sky Cricket these last few years. But yeah, it does sound great, and it's good to hear that the players themselves were taking such good care and interest in your well-being. I've got to ask you, did you get any of them down to the Lahore Kebab House for a proper London experience?
We didn't do Lahore Kebabas, unfortunately, just because of where it was located was a bit difficult from our accommodation. But having said that, we did get them to Dars in Hampstead, which went down an absolute treat. The boys that actually they ordered that rather than go in. It was right next, not far from where we were staying, and in Manchester, got down to my Lahore and had a lovely dinner with Uzma Khawaja there, which again was really nice. So we got to a few curry houses during the tour. They're actually all nutrition diet, extremely, they're fit, they're athletes, they very much watch everything they eat, and their training regime, again, I'll be honest with you, was an absolute joy to watch. So I don't think too many curry options was necessarily on their list outside of rest and recovery days.
It's all a long way from the days of Botham and Gatting, I suppose. So you've been immersed in cricket pretty much all your life, and I reckon you've been involved with Wanstead Cricket Club for getting on for 30 years now, man and boy. That's about right, is it?
Yeah, I think you're not far off, showing the age now, but yeah, it's obviously been an instrumental part of my life. It gave me everything I wanted in regards of my first access to the game of cricket, and then even really from my own career perspective, they took a few risks, made me captain at 19, hitting 20, and then got into the management committee. And I do a little bit of mentoring, and one of the advice I give to anybody is volunteer, because you get all of those transferable skills that you need to work in real life to survive. But also, in my perspective, I got that volunteer experience in a cricket environment, which gave me a real brutal understanding of cricket administration and governance and strategy and policy and development plans. So I owe quite a lot to my beloved Wanstead and Snaresbrook Cricket Club.
And congratulations to them progressing in the national T20. Are you through to finals day, or how far have you got with that?
Last day. So we're down in somewhere in where are we? We're in Hampshire.
Right.
In a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, I saw you win the Essex T20 finals day at the Lords of Essex Billericay Cricket Club. Good day out that was. It's, always quite good, actually. But you're a good example. Club cricket, and this is a discussion that I see quite a lot on social media, but the importance of volunteering at club level, but also the rewards it can bring if you really do put the hard yards in and get down there, and whether it's cutting the grass, putting out the boundary ropes, tidying up before and after the games, and just helping out generally, it can take you further and further. So in your case, Wanstead then became part of Essex, and you've been involved in this Leyton Hub, which Essex brought in as a really good initiative a couple of years ago. Just tell us a little bit about the Leyton Hub.
Yeah, start off with the first point. You're spot on. I think a cricket club can give you a really strong grounding, sounding board, really just to understand how sustainability is critical. And without volunteers, especially in the cost of living crisis we are in at the moment, clubs are not sustainable. So it's really refreshing that so many clubs and so many volunteers are helping clubs even more now than ever before. So I think it's important I sort of mentioned that. Leyton Hub is a real success story, and you're obviously aware with what's going on in cricket and sport in general, as well as society, with the current investigations and whatnot happening. And the hub really in 2018, as part of then the ECB South Asian Action Strategy, it was part of the action plan was to have an urban hub or 10 urban hubs, and we were invited to be the first pilot in line with the Cricket World Cup in 2019. And we were really fortunate, visited 20 sites across East London, and Leyton was the old home of Essex County Cricket Club. Leyton County Ground was selected for the first investment to come in. And we basically refurbished a 1960s sports hall into a modern indoor cricket centre with classrooms and office sort of building. It was originally they weren't connected, but part of the project is we connected them. And roll forward sort of 4 years, we had quite a lot of hypotheses that we wanted to achieve, or agendas really, and one was around understanding the sort of challenges related to accessing the game of cricket, especially from a performance perspective, but also participation and all the barriers. And one of my proudest things now is, we run the East London performance programs out of Leyton for boys and girls on a Monday and Tuesday, which means, the players are no longer having to travel 30 miles to Chelmsford just to get a high level training perspective. Another one, which I'm really proud of, is not only are we getting coaches now traveling from Chelmsford to London to run those sessions, we're also upskilling local coaches. And the hub has been brilliant. Every more or less 3 out of 4 Sundays in the winter months, 9 to 5 is you got the foundation courses, coach courses, entry level courses to upskill the local community. We also run our MCC Foundation hub out of there. We've got the Lost Taverners Wickets program, and we also work very, very closely with the Met Board, which is the district that runs youth cricket, to run indoor cricket matches, but also the under 13s, under 15s district training programs. And then the local South Asian League, the National Cricket League, on a Sunday run their indoor league in the winter months as well. And in between, it's a performance centre. So Feroz Kushis, Robin Dasses, Aaron Nijars, you name it, some of the academy boys, Ravi Bapara, Wais Shah, they will use it off peaks to do a bit of training rather than have to travel a fair distance. They come down and do their own training sessions there. So it's hitting the narrative that we want it to be accessible for everybody, and that especially with a focus around those living within deprivation or areas of deprivation or low socioeconomic families. But equally want it to be aspirational and ambitious as well. And that's where I think the success thus far has been.
Ravi Bapara. What a year. That was 9 years ago when you and I worked on his benefit year. That was a lot of hard work, but it was good fun though, wasn't it?
Yeah, well said. Actually, do you know what? One of the best things of working in Ravi's benefit, and you probably understand this from your experience at chairing that, was we were able to engage with new relationships and partners, really high-level South Asian diaspora communities, who business people who were keen to do their bit, but actually probably didn't understand where cricket was and how they could access and support it. I think we roll forward now, and a number of those business men and women are really involved, be it at their local cricket club, be it more at community partnership or even corporate sponsorship level. So we owe sort of Ravi quite a bit from his benefit year in allowing relationships to sort of develop.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think with all due respect to any other professionals that have had their benefit years, I think that one was a real catalyst, as you say, because of the South Asian perspective that it was coming from. And it did fire the imagination. We had some great events, notably that one at the dinner at Lord's, where the whole England team turned up, having just won the Ashes. Was an incredible night. But as you say, it does, and that's all it seems to take with cricket, is to just spark some enthusiasm. And once people get involved, they seem to really sort of go for it and embrace the whole sort of ethos of what cricket is and what it can bring to you.
You've nailed it, Darren. I must be honest, that's exactly what we've got to remind. I always use to think about what's your first experience. And if your first experience might have been you played cricket at school, you loved it, but then you never played again, but you downloaded the ECB app or the Cricket Info app and you followed Essex cricket or England cricket. And as you get older, you might go uni and you might get involved with the social element of cricket. And then you get to your mid-30s and 40s, you have your first child, gets to the age of 4 or 5, and you go, what, I had a really good experience. I want my kid to play. We sometimes get too obsessed with retention being an overnight sort of fix. If I'm being honest, once you've got them in, we've got to maximize them. I probably look at it another way. The game has to survive well beyond our sort of existence, and by doing that is you give people some great first experiences. And I think the rugby benefit, Bapara benefit was unreal. We had the game at Chelmsford where some of the biggest names in cricket, from Chris Gale to Sangakkara, all involved. And you mentioned the Lord's event, and there were a number of great events, but the one that I absolutely love the most, and being very biased in this one, was when Ravi went back to his own cricket club, now Brentford Cricket Club, merged with Hamilton Clove Cricket Club, and seeing the club do all the hard work. There were, I think, 300-400 people turned up on the day to support the game of cricket against Essex. And then in the evening in the marquee, it was 250 people that were there in the dinner event as well. And it just shows you a local cricket club with the support of some great people within those, Graham, Sandy, and some great people, Rob Rowlands and Adrian Rowlands and others involved in and around that club. We were able to celebrate the club rather than Ravi, and Ravi being a small element of the club, and he loved it. He keeps talking about that day more than any other day. But again, the power of, as you rightly said right at the beginning, you give people a great experience within the game. They'll forever hold on to it, and they still talk about that day.
What is it about that area, East London, West Essex, whatever you want to call it? It's such a hotbed of cricket, and it's not a recent thing, because the legendary Graham Gooch and John Lever, players of that era, came from the Ilford area, and it's transferred through. And as you mentioned just a moment ago, there's a whole host of legends of the recent past, and also the pipeline. You mentioned Robin Dass, Jamal Richards is from down that neck of the woods as well. And incidentally, both of them were on England duty this summer as well, on 12th man duties, running on and off with the drinks, which was great to see. Again, that shows you where, if you get heavily involved, where it can get you. But what is it about that area that breeds so much talent?
Yeah, I think I'll try to break it down to its basics. And you're right to mention the history rather than just the recent past. If you think about London, it's a 9 million plus now population, highly obviously diverse, lots of different demographics, but the population is really important. I worked out, and I'm really poor at geography and math, so it'll be an average, but something like 10% of the land that Essex covers, geographic landscape that Essex covers, is only East London, but it produces around about 50% of the participation, 50% of the performance pathway. And it kind of makes sense because it's a dense populated area. There's high volumes of people living there, so you've got a bigger reach. Historically, I think it had a lot to do with just simply that. It was just pure maths and numbers. I'd say now it's got to do with the beauty of diversity. It's obviously, London is the most diverse city in the world, if I'm not corrected. And therefore you attract not just people from one community of faith, a real diverse community of faith, and they bring their passion, their inherited passion from all around the world, be it from the Caribbean, be it from South Asia, be it from Australasia or South Africa. They all love cricket, and you put that in the mix and that lovely little pot, and you're going to have an even bigger, growth of participation and growth of passion and involved with the game. So it is a hotbed. We're extremely fortunate to have a London region, area as a county, because we know there's always going to be a huge group that will want to get involved in the game.
And it's also massively social as well, playing in that part of the world. I love going down to clubs like Brentford and look forward to the samosas on offer at tea time and stuff like that. My son, who's now, you mentioned about where cricket takes it, he's up at Durham University and he's the social secretary for Durham Cricket. And yeah, I think he's got some ideas about what's going to be on offer for some of the off-field activities. I've told him samosas have got to be one.
Oh yes, I'll be there.
So what next for the in the life of Arfan Akram? Any winter excursions planned?
Yeah, well, one definitely. I think first of all, it's catching up with 1,500 odd emails and God knows what with the Essex portfolio as we come to the end of the season. I think the immediate is what you touched on earlier on. I think the mighty Wanstead are now in the last state of the T20 nationals, as well as the last day of the 40 over. We've got Bexley this Sunday at home, so there's going to be a nice busy end to the season. Regarding the winter excursion, so I've got a couple of other voluntary hats on. I was very fortunate to be elected on the main committee with the MCC at Lords and the Cricket Committee, and I was very fortunate to be selected as the manager of MCC's tour to Kenya in November. So very much looking forward to that. Be it we'll have quite a lot of work to do, and but thoroughly enjoyable in that sense. And then there's a group of friends who are cricket passionate lovers from the East London area. The majority actually are Wanstead, but there's people have moved around and play for other clubs. We're actually doing a tour to Pakistan in April next year, which my brother's organising and coordinating. So very much looking forward to. I haven't actually played in Pakistan since I was 19, so just going out there and experience how to play on slow, low turning tracks, and no doubt they'll make me look silly, but it'll be a really, really good, incredible experience. But in between, honestly, pure madness with Essex cricket. There's so much wonderful stuff going on. We're already in the middle of planning for Leyton and making sure we get all the right programs in, and also manage expectations, because the demand is high, and naturally people will be disappointed with the amount of availability we got, but that's only a positive. If ECB are listening, we'll have a second Leyton Hub if there's money aside. But yeah, so it's going to be a nice busy winter.
Joking aside, I reckon you could probably put 5 hubs in that area and they'd all be busy as hell.
Well, ironically, funny you say that, we probably have, in a really, about being sarcastic. Obviously, the famous Ilford Cricket School you mentioned, Graham Gooch, that's at capacity, especially in the winter months. It's busy in the summer months, let alone the winter. Peter May, there's X amount of hours that is used for cricket with the Met Board indoors, clubs training on a couple of evenings a night, fully rammed. Forest School have opened their nets up over the last few winters. For us, we've got pastures in Waltham Forest, which we use. So they are genuinely, it gives me, it always makes me laugh when you talk to non-cricketers and they say, oh, so what happens to cricketers in the winter? And I say, we're probably, ironically, even more busier because of the administration and managing the summer. But participation-wise, we're rammed. There's so many communities wanting to keep playing all year round. So yeah, there are 5 centres in a funny way of putting it.
I can imagine anyone that's listening to this that is in any way involved with cricket clubs at whatever level will be nodding their heads in agreement, because cricket does not run from April to September, and that's it. And being involved with cricket clubs, particularly at committee level, is really now, there's a friend of mine says that it's a small business that plays a bit of cricket on the side. I mean, it really is that intense, isn't it?
Yeah, well said. I think if you run it with a business mindset and a sustainable mindset, any cricket, program, club, league, community, it will remain sustainable. You've always got forecast risks and understand where society is moving towards and make sure you're adaptable and adoptable. But the winter is by far the toughest period, because motivation can drop because you're tired and fatigued from the summer. But I think all administrators and volunteers will tell you that you've got to invest in the winter to make sure you're in a really strong position for the summer ahead. And one of the most rewarding and most enjoyable part is the growth of women's cricket in the whole region, not just East London. And it's so nice to see clubs really embracing that and giving them the platform that they deserve. We spoke about the men's Ashes, but the women's Ashes this summer was it was gripping, to be honest with you. And as the 100 has been so far, we're really fortunate in Essex with our relationship with Sunrisers and obviously our Essex Cricket women's pathway. There's a real strong energy, but without the clubs being the foundation and the hotbed and providing access and opportunity, which they've done phenomenally in the last 4 or 5 years, you wouldn't get the pyramid at the top, if you like. So that, I know clubs have embraced that, and we're only grateful to the volunteers for seeing the foresight a lot earlier and being brave. Because I know now with equality, it's an easy subject to talk about, but they've put the foundations in to enable so many talented young female cricketers and coaches and volunteers to access the game.
Oh, I mean, at Billericay over the last 3 years or so, maybe not even that, the explosion of women's and girls cricket is just phenomenal. I mean, it's a real success story, and it's so good to see. I mean, women's sport as a whole is on a tear. I mean, you mentioned the Ashes, but I mean, there's the Football World Cup, which is going on as we speak. It's just an amazing thing to see. And it doesn't stop there, does it? Because you've got ability cricket, which is on the march as well. Essex are heavily involved with that. It is non-stop.
Spot keeps us busy on our toes.
That's right. Well, I shall leave you to it. I know you're very, very busy. I'm sure you're going to go and rush off and do something else now. But Arfie, really, really good to talk to you and catch up. And congratulations on all your successes. You're very modest and very unassuming, but it is richly deserved. And I know how hard you work with all these different causes. You give up so much of your time, and it's great to see you getting recognition and hearing you getting name checked by Nasser Hussain on Sky Sports. Doesn't get any better than that.
I'm always worried. I felt I owed him something when he said that, but no, on a serious note, I'm really just lucky to be the voice. I think without sounding sort of cliche or cheesy, but we've got some phenomenal people that are doing some amazing work, and even just an opportunity to chat to you and share the work they're doing is inspiring in its sense, and it keeps us motivated and driven. So it's a great part. Essex Cricket and East London's a great sort of community to be part of, and long may that continue.
Long may it continue indeed. Arfan Akram, many, many thanks for joining us, and we'll catch up soon.
Cheers, Darren. Take care for now, mate.
There you go. Perfect.
Legend. I hope that was all right.
Yeah, I shall send you a copy of that, and you can spread it around your socials and amongst your friends and networks and whatever else. And yeah, and we'll catch up soon.
Look forward to it, mate. You look after yourself.